What's up everyone, Ivan from Darkglass here, and today I will walk you through the controls and sounds of Entropia, the first plugin for the Anagram platform. Entropia is a parallel processing multiband distortion plugin that lets you independently control the low, mid, and high bands. Here we have an overview of our bands, and we can also control some parameters here. We can control the amount of low band compression, the low band level, the mid drive, the mid level, and the high drive and high level. One very neat feature is that when we play, we see a graphic representation of the sound on the screen of Entropia. And this is really helpful when dialing in sounds because you can see which frequencies have more content, or also which frequencies or which part of the frequencies you are targeting. As I mentioned, we have control over the low compression, low level, mid drive, and so on, but there are even more parameters. To access them, all we have to do is tap one of the three buttons that's on the top of the screen. We can go to the low band, the mid band, or the high band. Let's start by checking out the low band. Here we can control the compression type, the attack and release settings, the compression amount, compression level, ratio, and the low pass filter to adjust which frequencies we are compressing. For the compression type, we have the option of bypassing compression entirely for the low band. We have an FET style compressor and a psi compressor. Those two compressors vary in their character and sound, and the most important difference is that they have different attack and release settings. Now, to make Entropia more user-friendly and also to speed up your tone creation process, instead of having to deal with attack and release millisecond values, we have separated them in fast, medium, and slow, respectively, for both the attack and release settings. As you can see, we can pick, for the very first option is a fast attack and fast release. Moving on to fast attack, medium release, fast attack and slow release, medium attack, fast release, medium attack, medium release, medium attack, slow release, slow attack, fast release, slow attack, medium release, and slow attack and slow release. So you have a lot of variation that you can pick, and in total 9 different settings for each compressor. If you're unfamiliar with what attack and release means, broadly speaking and in a simplified way, this is how a compressor reacts to your signal. A fast attack is going to grab into a spike, into a transient of sound quicker and compress it faster. A slow attack is going to take longer until the compressor reacts to a signal to bring down the level. Now, generally speaking, a slow attack is going to be more percussive, and a fast attack is going to be a bit more even because pretty much the notes are going to get compressed immediately. A fast release means that the compressor is going to grab into the note and then let go pretty quickly. And a slow release means that the compressor is going to grab into it and then slowly let go of the compression. The attack and release settings are going to be pretty interactive and also personal because they're going to vary on what kind of sound you want to have. If you want the sound to be really compressed and super consistent throughout your performance, or if you want it to react more natural to your playing. It's also going to depend if you're playing fast passages or more slower passages, so this is a pretty interactive control. Moving on, we have the low compression amount, and I'm going to demonstrate what it does to the signal. Right now we have a value of 5, as you can see on the screen. Now I'm going to solo the low amount or the low band, and then increase this. As you can hear, the more I increase the compression amount, also the quieter my signal gets because it's getting more compressed. So at higher compression amounts, I'm gonna need to compensate by adjusting the low level. Personally, and with this instrument and the way I play, I find that values at 5 at the default setting are already really good for me. This ensures that I have a very consistent signal and low volume level throughout my performance. Just like I mentioned, we also have the low level, which allows us to control the volume of the low band, And this is a control that I would advise to be a bit careful with, because since we're compressing the low end quite a bit and the sound is going to be very consistent, then a little bit of boost goes a long way. So be careful when boosting the low level, because it can easily be too much. Moving on, we have the compression ratios, and we have 4:1, 8:1, 12:1, and 20:1. If you're unfamiliar with compression ratios, what this means is that, for example, with a 4:1 ratio, for every 4 dB that go above the compressor threshold, only 1 dB is going to come out of the output. For a 20:1 ratio, you need to increase the signal by 20 dB above the threshold for it to actually go out only 1 dB. So broadly speaking, a 20:1 ratio is going to feel more squashed, much more compressed than a 4:1 ratio. Finally, we move on to the low pass filter. And this lets us pick which frequencies we are compressing. By default, it is set at 250 Hz. And if I solo the band, this is all you're hearing. If I raise this to be off, then I'm compressing the entire signal spectrum. And I can pull it down all the way back to 40 Hz, being only sub content. Now, depending on your playing technique, whether it's with a pick or fingers or slapping, also if you're down tuned or not, and also of course the genre of music that you're playing, this control probably will change, because some basses have a spike in the signal around, let's say, 160 to 200. So probably you will move around this area between 100 to 250 for a really good compressed low end. Now let's check out the mid and high band. Both of them have the same controls, the only difference being that by default, the mid band is targeting a different frequency or a different part of the frequency than the high band. But let's start with the mid band. Here we can control the drive type, and we have 9 different types of drives. We have the drive mode, and each drive type has 4 different modes. We have the drive amount, the drive level, and then the high pass and low pass filters to target exactly which frequencies we want to distort. Let's start by checking out the drive types. To demonstrate the tone of the drives a little bit better, I have muted the high band, but I have increased the low pass filter of the mid band all the way up. So we are distorting all the way from 250 Hz up until 20,000 Hz. And also I'm going to increase the mid drive a little bit to make it more obvious. Let's start with the B3K. And here we can pick between flat, the grand version, a mid-boosted version, or both simultaneously. Then we move on to the vintage microtubes. You can immediately tell that this is a completely different character of drive. We have the flat version, the mid-boost 1 version, the mid-boost 2, or both together. Then we have the alpha, the alpha with the growl switch, or the alpha with the bite switch, and also the same but with both engaged. And the same applies for the omega. We have the flat version, omega with growl, omega with bite, or omega with both of them. Then we have the chinchilla. I'm gonna pull back the drive a little bit on this one because it's pretty hot. That is the flat version. You have a mid-scooped version. And we have a mid-boosted version. And finally, probably one of my favorite settings, the synth setting. Really fun to play. Moving on, we have the turbo version of the Darkglass distortion. And these are a high gain version of the Darkglass pedals. We have the B3K turbo, BNT turbo, Alpha turbo, and the Omega turbo. The turbo versions are really useful when playing with a low output instrument, or also for the high band, since in that upper regions there's not so much sonic content. Now let's check the drive control. 10. You can of course control the level of the band. To really shape the sound of the distortion, we're going to use the high pass and low pass filter. As you can see, we're right now distorting from 250 Hz all the way up to 20,000. Let's hear how it sounds when I start rolling off the low pass filter. Without even applying EQ, this is already a quite drastic change in the overall character of the sound. And if I roll this even further down, as you can hear, this really changes the character of the distortion. Now I'm going to set this to default, which is 250 to 800 Hz, and then turn back on the high band. I'm going to pull that up slowly. And here we're distorting from 800 Hz, so right where the midband stops, all the way up to 20,000. And if I close this a little bit, or even if I just solo the band, so we can really target which frequencies we want to distort and which kind of character we want to give to the top-end sparkle of our signal. If I change this, for example, or if I go back to the alpha, increase a bit the drive, and maybe grab the byte. Or if you really just want to have a very metallic sound, we can go and grab the B3K again, solo the high band. As you can hear, Entropia is a really flexible tool, and you can create very different sounds very quickly. However, since there are so many options and different parameters for each band, we have created templates, and they help you with your tone creation. These are a great starting point so that you can experiment and audition different sounds and then tweak to suit your needs. To access them, all we have to do is go to the main screen of Entropia and then tap on templates. Here we will have all the different templates that we have created, and each one of them has a different sound. Once you're happy with the overall character of the distortion, you can just tap on the X and go back to the main view and tweak further if needed. When in scene mode, we can assign different parameters to our foot switches for scene A, B, and C. For example, here on the main view, we can control and assign the low compression, the low level, the mid drive, the mid level, the high drive, and the high level. If I go to a different foot switch, it's going to change depending on which scene I am using. To assign further controls, we have to go into the individual bands. For the low band, I can control, as I mentioned before, the low compression, the low level, also the ratio, and also the low pass filter. However, I cannot assign attack and release settings or compressor type to scene. For the mid and high band, I can assign the mid drive, the mid level, the high pass filter, and the low pass filter. However, I cannot assign the drive mode or the drive type. This also applies to the high band. And similar to other blocks, I can also assign the on and off switch to a scene to bypass Entropia entirely. When in Stomp Mode, I can also assign different parameters to the foot switches of the anagram. To do this, I press on the foot switch, tap on the plus icon, and then pick Entropia. Let's say that I want to toggle Entropia on and off, so I pick the on off switch. Now, I can toggle Entropia on and off with foot switch A. We can also assign macros or multiple parameters to a foot switch. For this, I press on this foot switch, tap on the plus, and pick Entropia. Here, I can assign the low compression, the low level, the compression ratio, and the low pass filter. But these two controls are disabled. For the mid band, the same applies. The first two controls are disabled, but I can assign the mid drive, the mid level, the high pass, and the low pass, and the same applies for the high band. Let's say that I want to increase the mid and high band for this. I'm going to go to mid band and then tap on the mid level. But now when pressing this foot switch, I'm going to control the mid level. So let's set those parameters. I can adjust this to my taste. And right now I will make a 2.3 dB boost of the mid level. However, I also want to add a boost of the high level. So I'm going to tap on the plus icon, select Entropia again, and then go to the high band and pick the high level and adjust as needed. Now I have the first macro, and when pressing the B foot switch, I'm going to increase and decrease the mid and high level simultaneously. With Entropia, I can also assign quick pots. By default, this is set to control the low level. However, if we want to change this, all we have to do is access the block settings, tap on the three dots on the top right corner, and then choose Configure Quick Pot. And from this screen, we can choose which parameter we want to assign to the quick pot. As you can see, we can choose between the low compression amount, the low level, the compressor ratios, and the low pass filter. For the mid band, we can choose the mid drive, the mid level, the high pass and low pass filter, and the same applies for the high band. You can choose the high drive, high level, high pass, and low pass filters. For more information on the Anagram and Entropia, visit darkglass.com or click the link in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.